me know when you're ready.
It says rotating your photo. Okay.
Ready?
Hello, Radio World. It's me, Kim. I am here today to talk about me from Crack to Christ. And actually, I'm going to be interviewed. So I have someone here that's going to be interviewing me. A lot of people have been wanting to know what's going on and what really happened. I'm not going to tell you everything about the book, okay? Because you need to go buy the book. And don't forget, buy the book from Crack to Christ, all right? Now, we're going to talk about my life story, a little bit of it, okay, you guys, on what it was like, me being out on the streets using crack cocaine and the experiment that I had to go through. So I'm going to go ahead and let Miss Denise Green get ready to start. And I want to say hello to everybody and thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm still getting out the kinks, but it's all good. It's all organic, and I'm just going to be me. And that's who I am. All right? Keeping it real. All right, Denise, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Kim.
go for it.
From Crack to Christ. Kimily Jenkins is a born-again, spirit-filled Christian, once bound by drugs and lost to the world of darkness. Kimily knew that Jesus Christ was her only hope to be set free. God has given her a powerful story to tell, and though this God has blessed Kimily to write a book and to produce a play based on the book, her experience was not a delightful one. In sharing her story, she hopes that it will touch the hearts of others.
Okay, now before she start asking me questions, again, you guys are just tuning in. This is R.A.P, Releasing All Pain, and this is Kimily, and I'm about to talk about a little bit about my story. And what Denise did, she just gave you a little bio about me. And I want you guys to know you can tune in at 703-951-7003. I'm sorry. Or you can go to rhythmixradio.com and you can tune in and listen. All right? I hope everybody's listening. Okay. Here comes the questions.
Okay, Kim, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What age were you when you started using drugs, and what started you?
Okay. Well, when I first started using drugs, it was marijuana, and I was 13 years old. Now, I don't want to say how I got it, because, well, then I will tell her. I'm keeping it real. I actually, Mom, if you're listening, it's not against you. I was taught from home, neighborhood, kids. I was a bad girl, and I'm tearing all my dirty laundry down. My mom's probably listening. She's just gonna whip me when I get home. But
Keep it real.
I actually started at 13, and I did it at home.
Is it true that you will never get the same feeling as you do from the first hit after the very first time you use crack?
Okay, now let me let people know. What she just asked me was, when was the first time I ever used drugs? The first time I ever used drugs was marijuana, and I was 13 years old. Now, growing up, I began to dip and dab into different things. As a teenager, I started using PCP and LSD. And if anybody don't know what that is, that's like acid. I don't know, maybe old school would know, wacky weed, angel dust. That's PCP. LSD was like blotter, like acid, taking pills, things like that. I did that up to the age of about 8. Maybe, well, I did it from the age of, I think I started doing pills and LSD when I was about 16. And that came from smoking marijuana, trying different drugs, and then also it came from drinking and just out funning. And then when I started using crack cocaine, it wasn't crack at first. It started out as freebasing, okay? And freebasing, you guys, is when you get it and you cook it yourself. And then they called that back then the poor man's dream, rich man's dream, poor man's dream, rich man's high, poor man's dream. And then what happened was you get it, you start cooking it, and then you make it yourself. Now I started that the day my son died. After my son, well, it wasn't the day he died, but after my son passed away, a relative come over to the home, and at the time he was doing freebasing, which was buying cocaine, and he would bring it to the house and cook it up, and I began to use. And then in doing that, after I was like a recreational person getting high. Like I was still working. Of course, you'll get to that part, but it was like I didn't feel I had a problem. I felt that it was just something that I did when he first introduced it to me. When I first took the first hit, it eased my pain. I felt like it was something that eased my pain. I didn't even think about my son's death. I didn't think about anything. I just thought about that high, and actually it was the best high I ever had. And after that first hit, I went chasing after that hit. And yes, after the first hit, no, you don't get the same high afterwards. You're chasing behind the high. Okay, now for me, I was chasing it. And to be real, you're chasing it. And that's how you become addicted. Because the first high is your best high. Because after that, you're just repeating it. And you're never going to get that first high again. Now, if you quit smoking for a while and you go back and try again, you may get that high. But to me, the first high was my worst high.
How often did you get it?
Oh my goodness. I got it every time I got paid. Now, before I started getting it that way, like I said, I had a family member that was bringing it over. And unfortunately, I started out on a $300 kick. And I did not know that it was a $300 kick. All right. That's a lot of cocaine at the time. All right. And we would cook it up, and then we would sit there and we would smoke it. I didn't think I had a problem, because after getting high, he would leave, and then I would get ready for work. And then I would go to work, come home, he'd come over, we get high, and it was constant. This was something like every day. Then when it became, when I realized I had a habit, was after I was like, you know what, I'm done doing this. I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I actually moved. I actually moved from my home, because it was the same home that my son had passed away in. And then I was like, I just need to get away. And I need to get away from that family member. And so once I moved, believe it or not, I had another family member that came over, and he had some. And I didn't know that this was so popular, but it was like a quiet high. It was something that people did not advertise. People did it amongst each other. They didn't do it so people can see them doing it. So this is why, I call it your free high is the worst high, because it was coming to me free, and I didn't know I was getting addicted. I just thought I could cut it off.
Okay.
And then when I moved, and then I wasn't using, and then I had another family member to come over one day and was like, hey, anybody here? He wanted to go into my kitchen, and before I know it, he was in there fixing it up and cooking it. And then I began to get high again. So I wasn't buying yet.
Okay.
A lot of it was my free high.
So basically, you're saying you wasn't paying for it. How were you paying for it?
I wasn't paying for it at that time, but like I said, the free highs is the worst high, because you get addicted to the freebies, and you become an addict when you start going into your own pocket. All right. Now, I didn't start going into my own pocket until after people stopped coming over. To be honest with you, it was like a few months later. One day I was at work, and I wasn't doing it every day, because this particular family member just came over. He, wanted to cook. We got high, and then I would run up into people, and they were getting high, and it was just, like I said, free. Then one day I was at work, and I had got paid.
Okay.
And this feeling came over my body that was like no feeling I have ever had before. I got the runs. I had to go to the bathroom. My stomach was hurting. I was going like cold turkey. It was like if I didn't get it, I was going to go crazy. So I remember where my first relative that came over once when my son had passed away, the first relative that came over and introduced me to it, I remember where he was going to get it. And I remember at the time, back then, you could go to a radio shack or a radio shop, I would say, and you could buy it. You like not buy the Coke, but you could buy the paraphernalia that you needed to use it with. So I remember I got paid, and then I just had a craving where I just wanted it. So I remember him taking me to this radio place where you go buy records and things like that. And we went there. I went there, and then I just pointed out to the guy what I wanted from what I saw. Then after I got it, I went to the place where he was buying it, and I knew that the person knew me because I was always coming with my cousin. So when I got there, she knew who I was and she let me in, and I didn't know what to ask for, so I just got what he would get, and I spent $300. Wow. And when I saw what she gave me, I was like, whoa, this was a lot, but I had learned how to cook it because he had taught me, and then I had been around other people. So I went home, I cooked it up, and from there on, it was on.
Wow. So can you tell me, Kim, how did this affect your job?
Well, after a while, it affected my job to the point where actually I was still going to work. Actually, I was working 2 jobs, and I was still going to work. And then, like, I guess about maybe a couple of years later, I started realizing that I was losing a lot of weight. And I was in law enforcement, and so my uniform kept getting too big. And then before I knew it, I was going to get new uniforms. And one day I went to go get a uniform fitted, and it was a size 0. And I didn't realize I had lost that much weight and that I was addicted. But to me, I felt like I was okay, because of the fact that I was still working, I was still, had my money coming in. I was married to someone in the military, and then I had income coming in from him as well. So I didn't think I had a problem, but the weight was gone. So people saw me, and they was curious. Matter of fact, people thought I had AIDS. I had gotten so small. They were like, what's going on? So after a while, it got to the point where I would be at work, and my job, they put me back on a post. So I was like sitting on a post, and I was taking my drugs to work with me. I would get high in the bathroom. Then I experienced some tragedy that happened to me where I was, high, and I was getting high on the job, and there was some officers there. And apparently my body must have been like really, really tired. So because it was so tired, I messed around and I fell asleep. When I woke up, I realized that I had been raped. And then I realized that this is bad. And so I was falling asleep on the job. My sergeant was covering me for a little while. And then it got to the point where one day I went to work, and I had decided on this day that I'm going to take my life because I just couldn't stop using at this time. Okay, now mind you, I wasn't on crack yet. I was still freebasing. And so I, smoked, got high, and after I got high, and if I'm going to keep it real, I was dating a drug dealer, and he was supplying me. And then one day, what I would do is let him have the car so he can go do what he needed to do, and then he would give me what I needed. So when he left with the car that day, I had already premeditated that what I was going to do with myself. And once I got high in the bathroom, I came out and I loaded my gun. I went to go load up my gun and forgot the bullets, which was crazy. That was God. I don't know how I forgot my bullets, but on my utility belt, that's what you wear when you put your holster and everything. It's called a utility belt. Well, it has where you can there's bullets on it, then you have a little case where you can put more bullets in if you need. And I left them. I don't even know how. I never ever left my bullets ever. And when I went to go get the bullets, they were gone. They weren't there.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I can't even kill myself. So I kind of had a panic attack. I just began to break down. I lost it. And so I called my sergeant. He came and he released me from the job. And when he released me, that was the day when, I was done. I had to go before the board. I didn't get fired. I was blessed again. I just got released. I was able to not retire but resign, and that was a blessing. I had favor, and then after that, it was on.
So how did this affect your living and especially taking care of your daughter?
Well, it got to the point where I had to let my daughter go and live with my grandma and my godmother because I could not care for her anymore. It was funny because my daughter at the time was a little girl, and I didn't have close friends, so I would tell her everything. She was like my best friend, and she may not understood, but I knew it was a secret that she would keep, that nobody would know, because it got really bad. And so I called my mom, and I had a grandmother and a godmother, and I let them know that I needed to go somewhere and get some help, and could they take my daughter and take care of her. And then I let my daughter know that I was going into a hospital. And she didn't really understand, but she loved me so much that she didn't, take it where mom's leaving me. She always knew I was going to come back.
Okay.
So yes, I had to let her go be with my family.
Okay. So when did you reach your bottom, Kim?
I reached my bottom. Now I'm going a little fast with this, but if you guys get the book, you'll get to, read some things. But after I released my daughter to family, I got out there on the streets really, really bad. Whereas my home became the house where it was the cook-up house, where you come in. It wasn't a crack house as of yet, because I didn't let people come in my home like that. But I was dealing, like I said, I always dated a drug dealer. So he was there. And what I was doing, I became the cooker. So what I would do is I would cook everybody's stuff up. And then they would leave me all the crumbs. And that, when I say crumbs, it was a lot, a whole lot. Then it got to the point where once they leave, I would get high and just all night long. And then I start selling, because I had to have more money to buy, and I didn't want to start touching my money that I had coming in, because I didn't have the job anymore, but I was getting income because I was married to military. So being married like that, I was getting a check every month, and then he was taking care of the bills.
Okay.
Then it got to the point where the drug dealer that was living with me at the time, he used to tell me, if you're going to go out and sell, you can't use. You have to go sell, then come home, and then you can use. I was doing that for a while, and then he was paying all my bills, and then I was taking the money that I was getting from my, spouse, and I was using that to take care of other things. But then after that, I just got into a situation where I was just so out there dealing with drug dealers that I got my drugs like that. And then I found myself so far deep in it to where I had to call my mom and ask my stepdad to come and move my furniture out, get all my things out the house, because I was about to get evicted. I wasn't paying my bills anymore. Even though I had the money, I didn't think about that no more. My main thing was just going out there, getting what I need, and having it. And if nobody wasn't there to give it to me, then I would do it whatever kind of way I had to get it. Now, mind you, this particular person, drug dealer, wasn't in my life the whole time. It was multiple drug dealers that was in my home. Mm-hmm. And then the last one that came in my home, well, I got into a situation where I started dealing with some serious drug dealers, and I'm not going to go all the way there with that, but when I realized that I was like down, and this not rock bottom, but this is when I thought that I was like, okay, Kim, you need some help, okay? I was, I didn't know, I had forgot that I had pictures of me in my home in uniform on the wall.
Okay.
And this particular drug dealer noticed it, and then he went back to his friends and peoples to let them know that I was a cop. When he told them that, then one day I go over to see him and to get some, and they were all strapped. And when I say strapped, they all had their guns out. And they thought that I was setting them up.
I see.
And the head drug dealer took me into a bathroom, and he put a gun in my brains, to my head, right to the temple, and he told me to tell him the truth. Why am I here? He knows that I'm a cop, and I was like, no, I'm not. I'm a user. I used to be. I'm not no more. I'm a user. And it wasn't nothing but God, because I actually said to him, if you're going to kill me, kill me. If you're not, please let me go. Instead of saying, God help me right now, I'm about to die. That's what I said. And then I knew then, you better get yourself together, or you getting ready to die. That was the first time somebody had put a gun in my head. And then when he let me go, I go out there to the people to, that was waiting on me to get their stuff, because I would go in and get a lot. I wouldn't go in and just get like a 50 bag. I would get a lot, because I had more people in the car, and because I knew them and they knew me, I would get a good deal. And then when I got back out to the car, and I realized that my friends didn't care about me. All they wanted was their drugs, because they was asking me, I told them, this is what just happened. Somebody just put a gun in my head. He was about to kill me, throw me out the bathroom window, da-da-da-da-da. And they were like, well, are you going to get us our money back? Or that's all they cared about. They just cared about getting high, and that's the way it is. And then when I realized that, I was like, man, I need some help. I need to get away. So I did. I got my daughter, and I actually got on a bus and went all the way to Mississippi. When I got to Mississippi, I thought I started getting my life right. I started gaining a little weight, but then I had to come back to D.C. Once I came back to D.C., I didn't want to be in D.C., but I ended up back in D.C., and when I got back to D.C., I started to use again. And this time, I started using bad. And when I say bad, I mean bad. I didn't have a place to live. I was walking the streets. I was sleeping on the streets. I had got to the point where I had got a box that was made for a refrigerator, and that was my home. And that's what I was sleeping in, a cardboard box. Wow. And if I go in your home, and I would go in your bathroom, if you had clothes in there or underclothes or whatever, I would steal whatever I could just to put on. I didn't have shoes on my feet at times. Then it got to the point where I was actually eating out the trash. I thought that it was okay, because back then they call it spoilage. And the spoilage is where, restaurants or 7-Elevens or Kentucky Fried Chicken or somebody like that, they throw their food, but it's still wrapped. And they'll throw it in spoilage. And then they put it outside, which is trash. But to me, I didn't think it was trash. I just looked at it as spoilage, because I worked for fast foods, and I knew that it was still good from that day.
Right.
But actually, I was surfing through the trash, and that's how I ate. And when I realized that I was eating out the trash, sleeping on the street in a cardboard box, on the vents downtown to keep warm in the winter. In the summertime, I was up under the bridge in D.C., the 11th Street Bridge, which they don't have no more. I knew then that I had reached rock bottom.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there was a time in your life where you came close to death in a situation of doing drugs.
That was a time where I came close to death a lot of times. a lot of it was I came close to death with many of people putting guns to my head. Basically, that's when I came close to death. With a lot of people putting, guns to my head. Get into situations where, oh my gosh, getting beat up, stealing from drug dealers. They beat me up. I came close to death a lot. Living in that drug life, it's not no good. It was just the grace of God and the prayers of the righteous that availeth much that got me to where I am today.
Yes. So, as an officer of the law enforcement, were you ever under the influence of crack cocaine?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
While you were on duty.
Yeah. It was times when I would be in a car and I used to ride around with my stuff in the glove compartment. Me and my partner, we would go in the woods. We would park the car in the woods somewhere and turn the radio off, and we just get high. Yeah.
So, do you think the crack syndrome is still going on?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's just not. I mean, I'm not in that world anymore, but I know plenty of people that smoke crack cocaine. I mean, and I want people to know it's not just people on the street. It's just not the homeless. It's just not people in low income. It's your doctor. It's your lawyer. It's a teacher. It's the preacher. It's the probation officer. It's the judge. They all use it. I mean, they may not want to admit to it. Some people lace it on weed and they think that they're not smoking crack, but you're still smoking it. Let me tell you something. Freebasing and crack is two different things. And like I said, freebasing is when you buy it and you cook it yourself. When you cooking it yourself, you know what you're putting in it. So it's not as strong. You don't go chasing it like you do when you have crack. Okay, crack cocaine is mixed with a lot of different things, and it makes the brain want more. But I'm gonna tell you what really make you want it. It's the smoke. That's the devil. It ain't nothing but the devil himself. Because you see that smoke rising up in that bowl, or you see that smoke, you get addicted. I mean, it like hypnotizes you. Okay? And people, if they want to be real about it, for real, if you using a glass bowl, that glass bowl, looking at that smoke, because that's what you be looking at, it hypnotizes you, and it makes you want more. I call it the devil. It ain't nothing but the devil himself. But,
Okay, so how can people know if someone is doing it in their own family?
Well, first of all, crack doesn't smell. So I can go in your house and go in your bathroom and I could smoke it. And if I had some air freshener or some perfume, I could spray it and you won't know. You might smell like a burn, but you won't know where it's coming from because it don't smell like a cigarette. Okay? So it's really easy for someone to smoke crack because it don't have no smell if you got the good stuff. I would say if you want to know if somebody in your home smoking, start talking to them about it. Just bring up a conversation about crack. If they tell you I got to go to the bathroom, and they keep saying I got to go to the bathroom, that's a sign. Because it's like a diarrhea. It just releases from you, and you got to go to the bathroom, and then you go to the bathroom, you come back out, and they'll say I don't want to talk about it, or now I can talk about it now. I used to couldn't talk about it without going to the bathroom, and people be real with it. If they gonna be real and they on it, it's gonna. If they are addicted to it, if you start talking about it, they're going to say, "Can I use your bathroom?" Or they're gonna say, "I'll be right back," or something like that. Or they may just leave. And if they leave, that means they got to go get something.
Right. Okay.
Another way you can tell is by their actions. They're staying in the room a lot. They distance themselves from you. You don't see them. Now let me tell you, there's are functional users. They're recreational users. I mean, they look good because I didn't just go into the streets, okay? Because I was myself for a long while before I realized I had a problem, okay? And then once I realized I had a problem, then that's when people start noticing it. But I think people were noticing it even before then, because I was, you're not who you used to be. You don't have money anymore. You start losing things. You're always broke, or you want to borrow money all the time from somebody, or you're giving some type of lie and tell them that you need something in your line, or every time you turn around, my lights turned off, or can you give me some money to buy some food? And a lot of people like to use their kids, say my children need this, or they may say, I don't have some food in the house, or you'll know. And if they're in your home, you might start missing something. You'd be like, I thought I had this ring here, and you don't even think that maybe somebody took it. And then before you know it, you'll be looking at, I thought I had something else here. And then you'll start asking questions, where's such and such at? And then or they may start coming in late, or they may not come home no more, or they may take a weekend off. Everybody's different, but if you really want to know, you just sit back and observe. Just observe. If you don't see them doing what they normally would do, and then you see they taking off work a lot, and then before you know it, they don't have their job no more, or they lost their car, or they losing their home, things like that. I mean, now let me get something straight. Crack cocaine ain't the only drug, okay, that people can be addicted to and can lose things. But we're talking about crack. But that wasn't the only drug in my life, because once I got out in the street, I did anything that got me high, okay? From shooting needles to snorting dope to smoking dope to what we call it when you take your dope and you mix it with the coke, which is a boy girl, you put it together and you smoke it. And so you up and down. Well, you don't. Well, some people can smoke it, but I was shooting it. You after a while, it get to the point where I know for me, I'm gonna say for me. I'm not gonna say for somebody else, because I don't know what nobody else would do. But for me, it got to the point where I just wanted to have I got to the point one time where I was like, I'm done smoking this. I don't want this no more, because it was just like taking me, to a place where I didn't want to be. Like they call it geeking. When you're down on the floor. And, that's another way too. You can find out somebody smoking in the house and say, you don't know they're in there smoking. Next thing you know, they always on the floor picking up stuff, because they looking for a rock. They looking for it. Every little white thing to them is a piece of rock, but it ain't. So if you see something like that, I was just doing all kinds of crazy things. I mean, I'd be going outside, and I know I ain't smoke outside, and I'm looking on the ground picking up real rocks, So it's a lot of different ways of people doing stuff and how they do it. So, but I'm just gonna keep it on me. What it did for me, what I went through. Before I knew it, I wasn't freebasing anymore. I wasn't using crack. I was just shooting dope, And then after that, I went back to smoking crack. It just depends on what was there. But 9 times out of 10, crack was usually around during those days that I was doing it. It was very easy to find. People will come up to your car before you can even get out the car. If people know what I'm talking about in their neighborhoods, it was so bad that they didn't care who you was. They just come up on you, and you can buy it. And then it got to the point where it was so cheap. Crack got real cheap. It was like you can get a vial for $10. You can get a $5 hit. You can get a $2 hit. But you're gonna keep chasing it. You're gonna keep chasing it, and then when you can't get it, you're gonna take it. You're gonna rob somebody. You'll kill for it. And this is real. This is so true. You will kill for it. You know what I'm saying? And it's still out there. People are on crack. People are freebasing. People are still using it right there in your face. People you don't even expect. Like I said, a doctor, a preacher, a lawyer, a teacher, a social worker. They're human. They just know how to do it and be function with it.
Okay. So basically, Kim, can you tell me, when did you do or get the inspiration to write a book?
I got the inspiration to write a book by my daughter. My daughter, India, she was about 12 or 13 years old. I was, getting my life together, and I was trying to, live for God and just trying to do right. And I did a testimony for Jesus. I think it was at the Monument somewhere downtown. And when I got done giving my testimony, my daughter asked me, she said to me, Mom, you should write a book. and I was like, I can't write no book, because I was so bad off that I had to learn how to talk, I had to learn how to walk, I had to learn how to dress, I had to learn how to do everything all over again, because I was just that bad. Okay, and when I said I was out there, I was out there. My name was DC Skinny Neck. That was my name. That's what people called me, DC Skinny Neck. So when my daughter said to me, she was in the back seat of the car, and she says, Mom, you should write a book. And I was like, whatever. Well, if I was to write a book, what would I name it? And she said, well, I have a name. And I said, what's that? She said, From Crack to Christ.
Wow.
And that was 1995, I think it was, back in 1995.
Yeah.
And
12 years old.
She was 12. I think she was 12 or 13 years old. And I stopped the car, and I looked to the back seat, and I was like, where'd you get that from? And she said, I don't know. It just came to me. So you guys out there listening to this, From Crack to Christ came from my daughter, India.
Wow.
And
awesome.
After that, I started driving the car, and then God said, okay, now what you going to do? And I procrastinated. And then I was working at this place here in Woodbridge, and I had given my life to God. We'll get to that. And I had a friend, and she called me up on the phone, and she told me about this lady who had just wrote a book. And she said, I'm going to give you her number and call her. So I did. And when I called the lady told me exactly what to do and how to do it.
Okay.
And then it was like, okay, what you going to do now? And so I asked, I said, how do you start? How do I start it? And she said, just start from the beginning, how it all started.
Yeah.
She told me how to copyright it and what to do, and I did. And then I started writing it. And you know, when I started writing the book, there was none but God, because it was actually, I think it was 10 years right after the when I got off of drugs. When I was on drugs was in the 80s. When I got off of drugs was in the 90s. And when I wrote the date down, the date was actually 10 years to the date of what I was writing on the day I started.
Wow.
When I looked at the date, when I put the copyright date down, and then when I put the date of when it all started, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, you know, God, He always have a plan for us.
Yes, He does.
You know, I mean, I had a praying grandmother. I had a praying mother, a praying godmother, and these ladies just kept me prayed up. And God had a plan for me.
Yes, He did. Yes, He did. So what did you do to help you rehabilitate?
What did I do is what God did. One evening, Saturday evening, it was New Year's Eve, and it was 1993. It would have been 1993, January 1, but it was New Year's Eve. And the drug dealer that I was dealing with at the time, so we went a little bit over. I mean, I went a little bit above before, you know, when I told you when I wrote the book and all this, but now we're going to go to when I gave my life to God, okay?
Okay.
I went to the drug dealer, and I wanted to get something because it was New Year's Eve, and him and his wife was there, and he was like, no, I'm not going to let you get anything. And I said, how can you not let me have none? You know, I'm buying. And he said, I'm not. You're not going to smoke today. And he said, me and my wife decided that you need God. You need to go to church and get your life together. And I was like,
was
a
dealer?
drug dealer
Yes.
telling me to go to church?
Exactly.
You know, why are you doing this to me? You know, it's New Year's Eve. People getting high and they drinking and having fun. And he was like, we're not selling you nothing. Now, you can sit here and you can smoke some weed and you can drink, but we're not going to give you any crack today. We're done. So I was like, when a drug man tell you he ain't going to sell you none, that means that something really is wrong with you. So I sat there and got drunk as a skunk. I was so drunk. I don't know how a skunk get drunk, but I was drunk. It just rhymed, okay? I was so drunk that I don't even know how I made it home. But that morning, New Year's, it was about maybe, I don't even know, man. I think I just woke up like 7 in the morning. I think I got home like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I just woke up. And she had given me a dress because when I was there, I was like, I don't wear nothing to wear to church, you know. I had gained some weight, but I hadn't gained a lot of weight, you know. But I was like, I don't even have nothing to wear because, see, I come from a church where you rap, you wear your dresses down to your ankles, you don't wear pants, you don't wear jewelry, you don't wear makeup, you don't wear none of that stuff. You know, we was holy. You don't go into a church without being covered, you know. So I was like, I can't go to church. So they gave me a dress. She gave me a dress. So that morning when I woke up, I took that dress and put it on. It was so big on me. I think the dress was like a size 12 or 16, and I was like in a size 6 or 7 or something like that. It was so big on me. But I wore it. I put the dress on, and you couldn't tell me nothing. I just knew I was cute. And I got my son, and at the time, my daughter, it was New Year, so she was up with family for the Christmas, and I was going to be picking her up because go back to school. So, and my son, he was a baby. So I guess he was about a year old, and so I was like, well, what church am I going to go to? You know, when they told me there's a church on the corner, and it literally was, and it was on the corner. It was like 3 minutes from my house and like 2 minutes from their house. You know what I'm saying? So I got up, I put the clothes on, I got my son, and I got in my car, and believe it or not, I started crying, and I don't know why. I was just crying, and I was like, what are you crying for, Kim? Stop crying. And I had already, this is before I wrote the book, okay? So I was just crying, and then I was driving, and I got to the church, I got out the church, I got my son, and this church was called Christian Hope Center. Pastor Shirley Burton was the pastor. At the time, I didn't know. So I walk in the door, and there was this usher. And I'm going to tell y'all something. I'm going to say hello to all the greeters and ushers at the door. Keep doing what y'all doing. Y'all doing a great job, because if it wasn't for this lady, I don't think I would have came in the door. She opened up the door with this great big old smile. Ushers, please keep a smile on your face, because you don't know who coming in that door.
That's right.
And she opened up the door, and she had this big old smile, and I got these crocodile tears, and she was like, welcome, come on in. She was all excited, and the church was jumping. So I walked in, and she took me. She said there was no seats, and everybody was just praising God. And she said, so I had to sit in the back. Now, you know, when you go to church and you ain't been in church in 20 years, you going to sit in the back. All of a sudden, I was like, I can't see. Now, what I was looking for, I don't know. But I was like, I can't see. So I asked her, was there another seat? And she said, there's one in the front, but you have to hold your child. And I said, okay. So she took me up to the front, and I'm sitting in the front. Oh my gosh, this was all God. He set me up. So I get in there, and I can see now. And I wasn't seeing the back of people's heads. I was seeing folks just shouting and praising God, and this was something I grew up in, you know. And I was like, okay. You know, and I love music, so, you know, I'm just listening. So after it was over with, there was, I didn't know, I thought they were the pastors at the time, but they were doing a devotional service, and they asked me, he had asked everybody to stand, no, if you're a first-time visitor, to stand, tell your name and who invited you. So it was a few people that stood up, and he started on one side of the room, and then it came over to my side of the room. So when they got to me, he said, you know, tell your name and who invited you and what church you come from. I hadn't been in church in 20 years. So I didn't know what to say. So I just gave him my mama's church, because my mama was a pastor. I said I was from my mom's church, and I gave her name, the name of her church, Mount Calvary, woo-hoo, on Naylor Road. I know y'all listening. So I gave them that name, and then I told them, then I said, well, the people that invited me, they're not here. And so then I was like, and I was still crying, and I was like, excuse me for crying. I don't know why I'm crying. All I'm doing is telling you my name. And then I just couldn't stop crying. And then he said, young lady, come to the front. And then come here, you know, come to him. And then I was like, nah. In my mind, I was like, I ain't going up there. What is he calling me for, you know? But being obedient, because I come from, you know, the church, growing up in church. He's a man of God. I'm going to be obedient. Now, mind you, I wouldn't go in nobody's church because when my son died, I actually cursed God. And I told him to take my life because I was always told if you curse God, you'll die.
Right.
So I didn't die physically, but I died mentally. And I died real bad in sin. Okay, I was in a dark place. All right, and we ain't even get to that. Y'all got to buy the book and see the play. And so, so when he told me to come up, the usher took my child. I walked up. Now, mind you, I was a 3-pack-a-day cigarette smoker. I love my wine. Those that are listening, there was a wine called Cisco. That was nothing but a liquid crack, okay? And I had to have that every day, all day. And I would buy a lot of it from the 7-Eleven. They don't even sell it no more. I'm serious. It was like liquid crack. And I was telling him, I said, nah, you don't understand. God ain't asking for me. I said, because for one, I cursed him. 2, I'm going to go home and get high. And I'm going to get the drinking. I'm going to do all kinds of stuff. They didn't even listen to me. All I knew is that he was calling. Well, I guess now the pastor was up there, which I didn't know she was the pastor. And she was calling all the ministers and the elders. And they all circled me around. And then this lady come up and she put her hand on my stomach. And she started shaking my stomach. And I had a hangover because the night before I got drunk. Right. Okay? I wasn't expecting all this crap. So I called it crap, but it's not crap. Yeah. But I wasn't expecting it. And she put her hand on my stomach. And next thing you know, I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to throw up. Because I had a hangover. Yeah. So I started throwing up. And then she got this bag. And every time I threw up, they would just, she had all these tissues and napkins. And they were just like cleaning it and throwing it in the trash. And then before I knew it, now there's people that was there at the church at the time. They're probably listening. And I was told that it took like probably about 45 minutes on me. Maybe a little longer. Yeah. And I in my mind, I was going, no, this ain't for me. God don't want me. He don't, no, y'all don't understand. He don't want me. But I found out later God was purging me. I was purging, and I was getting up all of that stuff that was down inside of my gut, down in the bottom of my belly. He began to let me throw it up, and I'm thinking I'm throwing up from a hangover. Right. Okay? And before I knew, I don't know if she was an usher, who she was, but she tied the bag up and took it out the church. And then, what I can remember, the man that was running the service, which I thought was the pastor at the time, he said to me, is there anything you want to say? And I stood before the church and I said, well, I guess I can just say I feel clean. I did. I felt clean. I just felt different. Yeah. And then the church just started shouting again and just, oh my God, it just went crazy, right? And in my mind, I'm like, why are they doing this again? And then I was like, you know that song, I said I wasn't going to tell nobody and keep it to myself? Oh, yeah. So I was like, I ain't telling nobody what happened today, right? This is just like a blessing to me. I ain't saved. This is just a blessing. So I had to go pick my daughter up from D.C. And because it was New Year's, and so that was a Sunday, and it was 26 years ago, New Year's. Wow. And so I had to go pick her up because she had to go to school. So when I went to go pick her up, I go in the house, and my godmother go, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. And I was like, what is wrong with you? She said, you done got saved. I said, no, I didn't. She said, yes, you did. I can see it all over your face. So I looked in the mirror, and I was like, what is she looking at? And she said, I can see the glow all over your face. And I'm in the mirror like, what glow, And I was like, I didn't get saved. I didn't do that. I said, I just got a blessing. I didn't want to admit it because I knew I was going to go home and get high. So I didn't want to say I got saved because the way I was raised, you don't get saved until you clean. Yeah. But then I found out later, God said, come as you are. But no offense against the background I grew up in, but that's how they, taught us, Sure. You got to leave your sins at the altar, and when you leave it at the altar, you change. You don't go back to it. But I didn't want to be a hypocrite, so I was like, I ain't tell nobody I got saved because I didn't get saved. I was just blessed. Yeah. So I got my daughter, we went on back home, and I remember them saying that they were going to have foot wash at the church. And I was like, what? And she said, I can see the glow all over your face. So I looked in the mirror, and I was like, what glow? And she said, I can see the glow all over your face. And I'm in the mirror like, what glow? And I was like, I just got a blessing. I didn't want to admit it because I knew I was going to go home and get high. So I didn't want to be a hypocrite. So I got my daughter, we went on back home, and I remember them saying that they were going to have foot wash at the church. And I went back to the church to have foot wash. I got my feet washed. Don't know what I was doing. Just did it. So then I went home. After that, I went back home that evening and church was over. And then after that, after church was over, that Monday I sat down, and at the time I was married, I was getting high with my husband and drinking. I smoked 3 packs a day, cigarettes. And then that Tuesday, we were sitting there getting high. And I remember the church saying on Wednesday night they have Bible study. So I told him on Tuesday while we were getting high, I said, I got something to tell you. And he was like, what's that? I said, I got saved on Sunday. He started laughing at me. He bust out laughing like, yeah, right. How you saved? You sitting here drinking and smoking and getting high, you know. And I was like, I don't know, but I got saved. So I got up and I walked to my bedroom and I had a pack of cigarettes and I said, God, if this is you, and if I really got saved, and you really came, no, I didn't say that. I said, God, if this is you, and you really came into my life, and you took this stuff away from me, then I'm throwing these cigarettes in the trash. And then I'm just going to depend on you. And I haven't touched a cigarette in 26 years.
Amen.
And I went back to church on that Wednesday night for Bible study. And the pastor, which was Pastor Shirley Burton, she said, I've been thinking about you, and God told me to tell you that it's done. It's over. And then I was like, you don't even know me. How do you know this happened? You don't even know me. So then she prayed over me. And then after that, every day, every single day for a year, she called me every morning at 7 o'clock to meet her at the church at 12 noon for prayer.
Wow.
And it was the prayers, and it was her taking me wrapped in her arm to that altar. And I fell asleep at that altar. I did a whole lot at that altar. I did, because I didn't, you know, that's how I got rehab. That was my rehab, going to the church. And when she would call me, I'd be saying to my mom, I ain't going today. She ain't my mother. She can't tell me what to do. But I would be there. And this lady, this woman just, I mean, she had never dealt with a drug person before. But she did what God told her to do. And because of her, and because of the prayers of my family and the church and the people that loved me, it got me to where I am today.
Amen.
But she opened her church, and that was my rehab. That's how I got rehab. I did not go. Now, I had been in and out of rehab centers. I got kicked out every last one of them. But this time, when God got in it, He's been in it ever since. I've been free for 26 years.
Amen.
26 years. And it came through God.
Yes, it did. Yes,
and so I'm here to say, you can leave drugs alone if you want. All you have to do, even if you don't want to, when God is ready for you, it's going to happen. Because I wasn't looking to get saved. But you know, they said that seed, they said the seed size of a mustard seed, you know, faith the size of a mustard seed. There was something down in my heart that where I did want to be released from these drugs, but I didn't know that God was listening to me because of the way I cursed him and the things I did. I turned my back to him. He never turned his back on me. I turned my back on him. And then when he saw that it was time, and see, when people pray and you have a direct connection to God, He is going to bring you in, because He will never let the righteous be forsaken. If you're going to pray, God ain't going to let your prayers go up in vain. He's going to let you see your prayers, and He's going to let you see that it worked. He's going to get the glory regardless. And it happened. It just happened. I mean, it was time. My mom and them was praying in the church for me. They said, now, they was praying and fasting for 60 days. And every day for 60 days. And they said, one day I just walked into the church. And I don't remember it all, but they said I walked into church and I wanted something to eat. They said, look, like I hadn't had food in months, and I was hungry, and I wanted to sleep. And they said I slept, and then I woke up. they talked to me and they said when I left, they didn't see me no more. So I don't remember it all, but that's what my mom and them told me.
Wow.
So prayers do work.
Yes, it
So
does.
people, don't stop praying for your loved ones. I don't care how far, I don't care how bad they look. I don't care where they go. I don't care what it looked like. I don't care what it seemed like. I don't care what people say to you. Don't give up on praying for your loved one, because prayers do work. If you want to see a prayer get through, pray for your loved one. Pray and then see what happened.
Amen.
And it didn't take overnight. It was like 20 years. I
Yeah.
mean, come on, man. I've been on drugs since I was 13 years old. So it took a long time. But the prayers came through. And before they went to rest, they got to see the play. They got to read the book. They got to see me get my life together.
Amen.
So
He's awesome.
he's
Yes,
great.
He is. Yes, he is.
He's
He
great.
is.
God is amazing.
Yes, he is.
He's amazing. So if there's anybody out there that's on drugs and you hear this, don't give up. I don't care if you're getting high, because I was getting high, hitting the pipe, and I would say, God, please let me not do this one day. Please let it be where I can just have a day where I'm not getting high, just one day. Then there was times when I'll be smoking, I'll be like, God, bust my heart. Do something to me to where I can just drop dead, where I don't smoke no more. It was a lot of things I prayed and asked God for. And people would laugh at me. I can't believe you sitting there praying to God to help you get off of drugs, and you still smoking. But you know what? Those prayers came true.
Yes, they did.
They came true. So,
Yeah.
I hope it bless somebody. I hope it lets somebody know that no matter what it looks like, you can get right. You can get your life together. If he can do it for me, he can do it for anybody, because there was no hope for me. None.
Yes. Amen. Well, thank you so much, Kim. If you feel like you have a question,
If there's any questions that need to be said, if you guys want to call in, if you have some questions and you want to call in, please call in and ask some questions if you like, and we can talk, and I can answer them the best that I can, to whatever I can do. So the lines are open. The phone number is 703-591-7003. You can call in, and we can just go from there and see what people want. Any callers want to call in? Callers, we're on the air. If you want to call in, you can call in. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Just call and just ask if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. But I'm just doing this because I want people to know that God is able and available to do whatever needs to be done in your life if you just let him. All you have to do is just open up your heart. Just keep praying. And I know you're praying. Nobody wants to be addicted to drugs, okay? Nobody. And if you are, just remember that. Keep praying. And I promise you, God is going to open up a door, and he is going to help you. Well, it's time to close the show. I guess I talked a little too much for people to call in, but I'll be here next week, and if anybody want to call, or if they want to Facebook or whatever, they can. But you can also go on YouTube, and you can see this, and if you didn't get to see it or hear it, and you get to see it. Okay, thank you so much, Denise, for coming in and asking me those questions.
Sure, Kim. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure it has blessed someone today.
I hope so. If it didn't bless but one person, I am all right with that.
That's right. Thank
Well,
you.
thanks for calling in. Thanks for listening to R.A.P Radio. This is Kim signing off. I love you, Mom. I love my kids. I love my grandkids most of all. I didn't get to tell y'all last time. I love you guys. I love everybody. Have a great night.
Wow.